All right, we're at top of the hour. We'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to the media to our second of the four Pac-12 football coaches media webinars. Again, Yogi, Pac-12 analyst, will host the three coaches. Some questions, some topics, and national issues will be discussed for the first 15 minutes. Then the second 15 minutes, we'll take questions from the media. Again, media, when we get to that point, I'll prompt you to select the raised hand tab at the bottom of your screen to put you in the queue, and we'll get the questions asked of the coaches. So at this time, Yogi, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. And thanks for all the coaches for joining us. Every day, as you said, we're going to have a different theme. There's a lot to talk about. We were just talking before we came on air about how everybody's operating in this world. So before we get to the football, I want to ask each of you, what part of your shelter in place have you come to appreciate the most? Coach Whittingham, we'll start with you.
Oh, boy, I would say just the opportunity to see the grandkids more often. I know, we're not, we've kind of kept it, we're doing our part with the rules and regulations, but being around the grandkids a little bit more has been a big positive for me.
Nice. Coach Dorrell?
I would say similar to what Kyle said, but my daughter, who's in college, she's a senior at Auburn, and I haven't seen her very much the last few years, but obviously with this shelter in place, she's at home. So just getting a chance to see all the family together at one spot that's been rare for the Dorrells for a long time, but it's fun to have them at home.
Jimmy?
Yeah, probably echo the same thing. For me, it's just all the family time and waking up. I think this is the most times I've actually woke up in my house and had a cup of coffee and was able to watch my kids rise out of bed this many consecutive days in a row. And, watching movies, playing board games, which we usually do in the month of July, but now we've been able to do, almost for 2 months now. So I definitely appreciate the family time.
I love that. Okay. Well, I know all of us on this call, we appreciate football and we want it back just like you guys all do. Coach Whittingham, I want to start with you, and I want to ask this one to everybody. How have you been able to attempt to recapture your competitive edge with everything that you've lost? And of course, for Karl and Jimmy, you guys haven't even had a practice yet as a new head coach within your organization. How have you recaptured that edge or began to try to recapture that edge or build it within your respective programs?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, being remote and everyone being out of town, all the players were at their homes or throughout the country, and so we're just taking advantage of what the NC2A allows. The 8 hours of Zoom meetings a week. We have team meetings, unit meetings, position meetings, special teams, and we're hitting all areas and doing everything we can there. Our strength coaches, I feel, have done a great job of getting the kids the workouts and being able to get them up to speed on that. And our guys, from what we're gathering, they're doing a great job of working out. Of course, it's all on the honor system and hoping that things are going well. But it appears like we're doing everything we can. We were able to get 3 practices in, which is better than nothing, but we certainly could have used them all just like everybody else, and particularly when you're looking for a new starting quarterback and you're replacing 8 or 9 starters on defense, we could have really used the spring ball. But everyone's got the same circumstances. Everyone has things to work on, but I think we're doing about as at least in our estimation, as good a job as we can with what we have available.
Coach Dorrell.
Yeah, I would say very similar to what Kyle said. It's, the challenge that probably Jimmy and I are the same, where we haven't had any chance to do any practices. But for me, I haven't even been in this program before as an assistant or whatever for quite some time. So, Kyle was talking about, you're looking at some new positions and competitions and stuff like that. I think in my mind, I'm looking at, 22 positions just because they're all new. I have no eyes on them, all those things. So my eyes would be wide open once that time comes. We get a chance to do some stuff on the field. But other than that, we're doing our 8-hour care rules with our meetings and virtual meetings and installs. The strength and conditioning people are, doing what they can, and we're being patient in the process right now. So we don't even talk about spring practice since it never really occurred. So everybody really, you have to let that go and just try to look forward to what's in front of us now.
Yeah. And Coach Lake, you're known as an aggressive defensive mindset. You like to, in air quotes, kind of go for it. How have you been able to do that? via Zoom with your team amid the times we're in?
Yeah. No, it's been a challenge. I think thankfully, January through the middle of March, we really had a really good start in our, off-season conditioning program with Tim Saha and his strength and conditioning staff. And he did a lot of new things, put some new wrinkles in the workouts, got some competitive features that I think the guys were really juiced about and they were excited about. And so I think if anything now, it's kind of fueled the fire a little bit where these guys are just chomping at the bit to come back. And we've done just like Kyle and Carl just said, we've done the Zoom meetings and, reinforce everything we had talked about in the beginning of the year. But I think, our team is going to be extremely grateful when we do come back, and they can't wait to get back into a regular meeting with human beings surrounding them and going out and doing a walkthrough and doing a practice. So right now, I just think it's building the fire in these guys, and they're going to have a lot of energy when we get back and rolling.
Yeah. Coach Dorrell, speaking of kind of connecting with players, write about how you had a 10-minute meeting with every player on the roster right when you got there. But now, how creative are you getting in trying to get to know guys a little bit deeper than in a position group or a team meeting on Zoom, if you are?
Well, you do have to, still build those relationships, along the way. I do select a group of players to try to reach out to every week, on the team, just to have some specific information, hello, what's going on? How are school going? We just finished finals. So, we're trying to get grades back from that. So it was a lot of encouragement that, message that I was telling most of the guys that I've been connecting with. But the 10-minute meeting was just really an icebreaker, just to kind of, I'm the new coach, you're the new, we're in this thing together, that type of thing. But I think lately, since the Zoom meetings, our coaches have done a great job with their meetings, but I've tried to pick off a few guys here and there just to create a, connection, so to speak. This communication, just kind of introducing myself to things that we do, because I'm the one that's new, that's the challenge that they're all trying to, gain the confidence in me and me gaining their trust and stuff like that from the other side of it.
Coach Whittingham, you referenced having to replace all the guys that went to the league on the defensive side, obviously one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country last year, let alone your running back. How are you now with the state of Utah kind of figuring out and putting the pieces together when you could actually even get back into the building? And can you shed some light on when guys will be able to come in, even if in small groups?
Yeah, that's still a pretty fluid situation. We don't have any definitive answers, but there is some talk about maybe June 1 getting introducing small groups back into the weight room. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But right now, there's nothing concrete. We're just playing it by ear each day and getting the updates each day. And if we are able to get back in the weight room June 1, even on a limited basis, that would be great. But that remains to be seen.
Yeah, Coach Lake. Seattle's kind of been an epicenter for this. It's also become an epicenter in college football, especially for young quarterbacks who want a chance to play. You got 3 guys, 2 have never taken a snap. How are you communicating and even planning to organize that position and the competition within those 3 QBs?
Yeah, again, thankfully, John Donovan, our new offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, spent some time with the 2 guys you mentioned, Jacob Sermon, Dylan Morris, January through the middle of March. So he was able to, they were come up volunteer meetings. They were able to talk and kind of get through some of the basics. So at least we had something there, a little positive, momentum going towards, okay, here's what we're doing. But, after that, it's just been all Zoom meetings. Coach Donovan hasn't seen one of these guys throw live, and it'll definitely be a challenge. But we all have challenges right now. What I am excited about is I think all 3 guys, the 3rd guy being Ethan Garbers, who joined us in spring quarter. I think they're all talented. I think they're all hungry. I think they're all competitive young athletes. And so I know they're excited to learn the offense and get out there and compete. And like I tell the whole team, I'm an equal opportunity employer. Whoever shows they know the scheme and they can get out there and practice and make plays are going to be the ones that get the opportunity to do it on game day. And so I think all 3 of those guys are going to create a really good competition in that room.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see how that plays out. Coach Witt, you referenced you had a few practices. How many times have you gone back and watched that film just to overanalyze that position?
Yeah, we've worn that tape out, but it was good to get on the field. Some is better than none, obviously, but we got a glimpse of the three quarterbacks that are battling for the job: Cam Rising and Jake Bentley and Drew Lisk. Those guys are going to be the ones that are in the hunt. And come fall camp, whenever that transpires, we got to get that narrowed down to two right away. So we'll have three going in that are in the mix, but we've got to get that to two fairly quickly, and then ideally 2 weeks out from the opener, you could decide on a guy and go from there.
Excellent. Coach Dorrell, I want to shift gears a little bit. You spent so much time in the NFL where endorsements are aplenty, right? Name, image, and likeness is getting a lot of play right now in all of college football, college athletics. A lot of it's because we don't have anything else to really talk about necessarily. How do you view recruiting and the landscape now coming into college from the league, where you've seen guys deal with endorsements, and now you may be around guys who literally are going to potentially have some endorsements?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. You're right. It's, that's a hot topic that goes into effect next year in 2021, right? So, I would say it's going to be a smaller scale aspect of things from an NCAA standpoint. I think there'll be some parameters as to how that works. We don't really know what that is yet. I know that it goes into effect in January, I guess, next year, but I think it's a good thing. It'll be a positive thing for our players. When it's all said and done, I don't think it can be. In the NFL, it's pretty more widespread, where there's a number of things and all sorts of different areas of life where you can get these types of endorsements. I think there'll be some restrictions, I would assume, on the college level. So it's really, it's uncharted territory for the college level. But I'm sure there'll be some parameters with it. I think it'll be a good thing when it's all said and done, and we'll just see how it works out as it moves forward.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time, just fundamentally in college athletics. Jimmy, I'm curious for you on the recruiting front. What has it been like with so much happening, so much uncertainty, health and wellness, name, image, and likeness, et cetera, that I'm sure you're hearing as you're talking to young kids?
Yeah, no, it is. It's an interesting time right now, and the name, image, and likeness really hasn't come up too much, just because I don't think the law is passed just yet. I think the challenges where we're all having right now is, not having those unofficial visitors and official visitors that we would normally have on campus right now. But I think our creative team has done an unbelievable job of trying to pump out stuff, through social media to show the potential prospects what it would be like to come to the University of Washington, and kind of give them, at least a glimpse of, what it's like to come out of the tunnel through that purple smoke into Husky Stadium, and also what it would be like to be a student athlete on campus. So, but we all have those challenges right now, and we're just trying to show them that glimpse through a computer screen right now.
Yeah, well, Coach Whitt, the country got to see a glimpse of your program with the draft a couple of weeks ago. What has that been like in recruiting? What have you felt from all the success that your guys have had when they got picked up over the course of those 3 days?
Yeah, well, it certainly helps. I mean, any positive things going on in your program is, you try to translate that to recruiting right away. And we were fortunate to have 7 guys drafted and another 5 priority free agents. So we got 12 of our, I think it was 16 seniors we had this year, in camps with the opportunity. And that's a big selling point to recruits. And obviously, recruits coming out of high school, they want an education, they want to have a chance to play in the NFL. And so that's something that we try to let them know there's a great opportunity for that if they come to Utah.
Yeah. Coach, I remember the opportunity you got to become the head coach at Utah. I was there the day when you got introduced to take over for Urban Meyer. Jimmy Lake is taking over for Chris Peterson. Karl Dorrell is now back in the conference as a head coach. What would you give both of these guys regarding some advice of either taking over for a Hall of Fame coach or now coming back to this conference?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure either one of them need any of my advice, but what I can say and what I did is when Urban was here, we obviously had great success. And so you want to put your own stamp on the program, but don't be afraid to hang on to what's working already. And, there's a lot of good things going on at both programs. I mean, Chris Peterson, I think, is one of the best coaches in the country. And so there's a lot that's right. Hang on to that stuff. Don't be, don't change just for the sake of change. Change what you want to change and what you think needs changing. Put your stamp on it. but don't be afraid to hang on to what's been successful. And we did a great deal of that. We hung on to a bunch of urban stuff, and to this day still employ a lot of what he brought to the program.
So well said. I know there's a ton of people that would like to ask a bunch of questions now, but I can't wait to get with you guys, because I can only imagine what a roundtable will be like when we're in person. Hopefully that is sometime soon. I don't know when, but thank you for your time. Dave, I'll turn it back over to you as we bring in members of the media to ask questions for the remaining 15 minutes.
All right, thanks, Yogi. Again, if you have a question, please select the raise hand tab at the bottom of your screen. Then I will allow you to ask the question when I call on you. The first one will be Brian Howe. Go ahead, Brian. Your line may be muted.
Yeah, this is for Coach Dorrell. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Coach, 2 questions for you. First off, I was curious how you've been able to connect with your staff, which was really just kind of put in place right before all this shutdown. If there's been positives, negatives to that. And then also I wanted to see if you could tell me about the quarterback competition and what you've learned about Tyler and Brendan and Sam throughout this process.
Yeah, sure. The first question with the staff, that's actually there are some really good coaches I was able to hire that I had some background with. So there's a number of coaches from that standpoint that the transition has been fairly smooth. It is what we would expect. There's some that I've retained, and I think they're really good coaches as well. But I think what we're all been discussing lately, we're all working remotely. We haven't had a chance to really have a lot of staff time to really iron out really the organizational procedures and how that is. We've talked about it, but it's different when you're talking about it and doing things from a remote sense and not really being collectively in one room and working things out and giving descriptions and examples and stuff like that when they're all together. So, that's always going to be the newness of a staff is just going to take some tweaking and getting used to, and these circumstances have slowed a little bit of that process. But other than that, I've been very pleased with what they've been able to do. I've been in their Zoom meetings with their players. So I've got really good teachers. That's really the first and foremost, is I want good teachers. And I think we're getting our information conveyed to our student athletes. As it pertains to the quarterback position, Sam is, we had to recruit him to come back. He's already graduated and he was getting ready to be a grad transfer somewhere else, and we got him to stay. So we ended up losing one of our quarterbacks right after the end of this season, right prior to Mel Tucker leaving. So we had one transfer out, and then we had one come in January with Brendan, who, as you mentioned, and then Tyler, who's the one that's been here. He'll be a junior this year. So all 3 of those guys, when it's all said and done, haven't had much time. Obviously, the freshman hasn't had it down. Tyler has not played very much. He probably played less than 20 snaps all season. And then you have Sam, who was actually playing at the safety position when they moved him prior to coming back and playing quarterback now. So it's really a wide open position. We're coaching them all hard, and we're just going to see how the thing really falls in place when we get a chance to line up at the beginning of the season. But we have a long way to go still.
Okay, your next question will come from Wesley Ruff. Go ahead, Wesley.
It's actually Dana. I guess I'm logged in under Wes. Coach Witt, I can't escape Wes's shadow, I guess. Couple questions for you, Coach Witt. First of all, there's been the idea of playing an 11-game regular season against all Pac-12 opponents. What do you think of that? And then what do you think of the possibility of playing without fans? It may have to become a necessary part of modern day sports.
Well, yeah, right now, obviously there's, all options are on the table, and we've got all kinds of things we've talked about as a conference, and the other conferences are doing the same thing. So I think there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. First of all, the ideal situation is we start on time, we play the normal schedule, and got fans in the stands, and away you go. I think the odds are probably against that. But if it comes to playing a conference schedule, then, we're all in, and that's if that's what it takes to to get the season in and get things done in the best fashion possible, then that's what we go with. But I think we're still several weeks out from having any real concrete direction what's going to happen and how things are going to be set up. But that is certainly one of the possibilities. Now, I haven't heard of an 11 game. We've heard a 10 game model and a 9 game model. I guess there's nothing wrong with an 11 game model if you have the time frame. One of my big issues is trying to avoid playing games during finals. I think that's tough on the student athletes, and I know we have bowl prep during finals and so forth. But that's a whole different ball game than getting ready for an actual game that week. And so, I think we're going to try our best to get as many games as we can, and we'll see what happens. But like I said, there's so much unknown and so much fluidness to the situation that there really is. It's pointless to really try to pinpoint any one direction that we're going to go. It's going to have to wait and see and go from there.
Okay, your next question will come from Troy Rink. Go ahead, Troy. Your line is open. Troy?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Sorry
about that. Coach Dorrell, when your experience from being at CU should help, but how long do you think it would prepare a college team to get ready for a season, having gone through training camp in the NFL with professionals? What do you think is realistic in terms of preparing a group, especially a group that didn't have the advantage of spring practice?
Well, good question. The NFL is different. It's a much longer process, what they do in the off season that starts in general, let's say the third week of April is when everyone comes back into their organizations, talking about the players, and there's a 2-week period of just strength and conditioning where the coaches have no time with them, and then it gradually builds into practice time. So it's a longer process of when they get ready to play. That process runs from their OTA period through mid-June, and then they take a break and come back in training camp the latter part of July. So, you're asking me a time frame. It's given the situation we're in right now, I think it's more ideal. Since we haven't had much time with our players with hands-on supervision, I might be the only one who feels this way, but I think it's an 8-week process. It's given the status that we're in is, I like to have a month of training and conditioning to kind of get them in shape, and then the month of training camp, and then play the game. But it's when it comes down to it. But I don't think we're going to get anything close to that. I know that it's going to be a little bit faster process, but I think given the circumstances in this season and what we're dealing with, I think all of us coaches feel whatever time they give us, we'll be appreciative of it, and we'll just make the most of it. And I think that's really how my mindset is. But if I had my druthers, I'd say I want an 8-week process, before that first game.
Okay, next question will come from Larry Stone. Go ahead, Larry. Your line is open.
Yeah, this is for Jimmy. Jimmy, you have the unique situation of being a first-time head coach. You must be just anxious to put your stamp on things. And how tough has it been in that regard? Just not getting that chance to coach with the first chance as a head coach.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but thankfully, I've been here going on 7 years now, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, these guys have heard my voice over and over and over, and I know on the offensive side of the ball, they've also heard me in a different fashion. But all these our players here, I was in the recruiting process with almost every single one of them. They know me, they know my personality. So I feel like in that regard, there's a lot of positives there. But definitely, going through spring football practice would have been a huge deal, for our program and for me as a new head football coach. I am fortunate. I've been around a lot of great head coaches, like Kyle mentioned. I mean, Chris Peterson, who I think is the best college football coach I've ever been around, and I've also had some NFL experiences with some really great head coaches. And so I'll be able to lean on those experiences and just chomping at the bit to get these guys back here.
All right, next question will come from James Crepia. James, go ahead. Your line is open.
Guys, I'm sure, you're all chomping at the bit, and certainly us in the media are as well. But not much has been said by or on behalf of players in this equation, and certainly they don't have a union or anything like the pros do. if a player or their family is not comfortable returning to campus, or they have an underlying medical condition, or I think two of you have international players, if they're unable to return to campus due to travel restrictions or something, how do you approach that situation, and what's the status of their scholarship with your program?
Who are you asking that question to? Anybody?
All of it.
All right. Well, I'll just chime in. First of all, there's going to be a lot of things that arise that probably haven't even been thought of yet. That the hurdles that we've got to get over, and in answer to your question about if there's underlying medical conditions. I mean, obviously the safety of the athlete is first and foremost. And so if we go into this thing and there's not a vaccine in place, or, there's, like I said, there's so many variables that I don't know if we can really adequately answer that question at this time, but I think that, I can safely speak for all three of us that the student athletes' welfare and their safety is first and foremost. And I don't think anybody's interested in putting them in harm's way in any way, shape, or form. And so that'll be job one. As far as the travel and getting people here, that'll probably be a challenge as well. I mean, who knows how much lead time we're going to have before we get the go ahead. And you're right, we have some players from Australia and England as well. And so that'll be something that we've got to, get ironed out. But kind of like most of the questions we fielded, I mean, there's just so many things that have yet to be determined. It's hard to give you a concrete answer on that.
Either the other coaches?
I would diddle that too. It's. I think we're living each day really day by day in terms of the information we get. But I like Kyle said, we're going to obviously our safety comes first. You're going to be very cognizant of that. All the conditions, the health conditions of our team, our staff. That's part of it too. So, but I know that we're being governed in the right place, and I know that. If and when those times come, when we have the deadlines of things to report to and when we can do things, we can be a little bit more definitive. But right now, it's living it day by day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both coaches. The biggest thing is it's the safety of the players and our staff is number one. And so if someone has an issue with an underlying condition of getting back here, I mean, we're going to deal with that appropriately. It's going to be nothing about trying to get them here for a meeting, and that takes precedent over their safety. So safety first for all of our personnel here.
All right, next question will come from Mike Varell. Go ahead, Mike. Your line is open.
Hey guys, I just want to ask for Jimmy and Kyle. I know Karl talked about this, but just with a ramp up or an extended fall camp or whatever that may be, what do you feel like your team would need to be ready? What would be kind of the ideal scenario for that?
Well, we've talked as coaches, in the conference, and I think that the sentiment is pretty much 6 weeks would be a minimum. I think that's something that we could live with. If we're presented with less than that, then we've got to adjust accordingly. But when you look at it, just discount spring ball, take that out of the equation. The typical lead-in is 8 weeks of training in the summer, 4 weeks of fall camp before you play, or camp and then leading into the season. So you got 12 weeks there. So if we get half that, I think that would be great if we can get that done. And that seems to be the consensus among the rest of the coaches as well, as a six week leading would be adequate.
Yeah, Mike, we would all want more time. Like Karl mentioned, 8 weeks would be great, and anything more than that would be obviously going in the positive direction. But did we have all talked as coaches that 6 weeks would be a minimum? Get these guys 2 weeks of just getting in condition for one, and then start implementing our schemes and going through meetings, so on and so forth. So I think 6 weeks has been agreed upon would be at a minimum the best for our guys.
All right, next question will come from Kelly Lyle. Go ahead, Kelly, your line is open.
Yeah, this is for Coach Dorrell. Karl, just wondering, with the thought and this talk of 6 weeks and all, if it came down to it and you had to choose between playing those 3 non-conference games and only getting maybe 3 or 4 weeks to get your team ready, or having that full 6 weeks and playing conference-only schedule, what would be your thoughts on that? What would be your preference?
Say that again. Say the last part of that question.
If you had to choose between playing those 3 non-conference games and maybe not getting an extra 2 or 3 weeks of practice to get that 6 that you would like, would you rather just play the schedule as is with only 3 or 4 weeks of prep, or do you really feel that 6 weeks is necessary, and if you lose the non-conference portion of the season and go conference only, that'd be your preference?
Okay. I think the 6 weeks is what you need, regardless of whatever schedule you have, whether it's a 10-game schedule or 12-game schedule. I think you still need that prep time. I would say, like what Jimmy said, that's at the minimum from my standpoint. Is 6 weeks is a good amount of time, but we wouldn't want to be anything less than that. And then I would just work the season back from there. So right now we're all anticipating having a full season. We're starting beginning of September, and we're hoping that the 6-week process backs up from when your first game date is, and then away you go from there. So I'm not interested in losing just because of losing games and because I'm down to a month of preparation. I think as a coaching group, we still want to play as many games as we can. And I think we would do it with whatever time frame they give us to do it. We're just merely making suggestions as to what is the proper amount of time for the preparation. So we don't want to lose any games for sure.
All right. Final question will come from Leo Haggerty. Go ahead, Leo.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. The demographics of Salt Lake City and Boulder are totally different than Seattle. From a competitive balance, does the conference have to say everybody starts together? Or if Utah and Colorado can start 2 weeks before Washington, is that okay? And I want to hear from all coaches. Coach Lake first.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Leo. I'm of the opinion it would be great if the whole NCAA made a blanket rule for the whole nation of when we would start. And I understand some states maybe less hit by this than most, and I'm sure there's gonna be some different opinions after me. But in my opinion, I believe the NCAA should step in and say, okay, here's the date where everybody can start. Because obviously we have a non-conference game to start off. If they were able to practice, 2 months before we were able to practice, that's a disadvantage. And not even talking about Utah or Colorado, just our first game that we're slated to play. So that's what I would be for. And then I think we would be all on an even playing field. I think the NFL is also going through the same issue right now. Some states are opening up before others. And I've heard a couple of NFL head coaches also have the same sentiment.
Go ahead, Carl.
I think in general feel the same way Jimmy does. I think there should be a blanket start as to when that 6-week process or whatever time frame it is to prepare for your season. I think there should be, the NCAA should govern that. In terms of when things are opening from one, state to another, I think that's usually involving just, I would say the normal NCAA guidelines of care hours or whatever you would normally do. I've made this proposition for the group last week about, let's say if Colorado did open up and we're able to work out, that's still a governing time of just training. Stuff that we're getting supervision for. I would be in favor of that. And I think from a conference perspective, if there's schools that couldn't do that, where they were still out, where they couldn't come back on campus, I would try to get it legislated for where, those campuses can have virtual, supervision for workouts, because the kids can't be back on campus. I just think that, whenever we can open up and play or train, that's probably the correct word to say is train is more important since we haven't had much time to do anything like that. So I would try to take advantage of any and all time that I can, given what the NCAA governs us to do.
Yeah, as far as my opinion, for training and and the 6-week lead in, or whatever we call that period of time, they're two different entities. And
Right.
I don't believe that players that have the availability and the opportunity to train that should be withheld from them. I think, everything's in the best interest of the players, in my opinion. There's imbalances and inequities all across the board in the NC2A. I mean, facility-wise, recruiting bases, nothing's really equal when you really look at it. And so I would hate to see athletes just sitting around that you could be training and getting ready for the season, just because other places aren't quite yet to that point. Now, the other side of that is, I think that, the lead-in time to the season needs to be the same. If you got 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever, I think that needs to be mandated. But I just don't like to see athletes that would have the opportunity and have the clearance and the go-ahead have to sit around and wait just because of where they live. And like I said, there's, we could debate all day long how much inequity there is in college football, and that's just my opinion.